This is Daniel Warren Johnson, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Very enthusiastic woohoo.
Oh, right.
Full of energy.
I mean, it should be a melancholy since we're not recording at Jason's, but whatever.
He had some horse shit.
Yeah,
you had kids, bro.
Both of your butt hurt about that.
About not going to Heroes?
Yeah, you're both feeling it. Jason's pulling his hair out in animated GIFs.
Right.
But he doesn't have much hair.
No, I was going to say, I'm freshly shorn, so.
Up and top.
Oh, God.
Oh,
yeah, all right.
Well, I'm pretty much I'm hairless. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm clean as a whistle.
There we go, everybody. Hey, this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 858.
Damn.
I am not hairless. I'm Vince B.
Ooh, I am so not hairless, and I'm David A. Price.
Indeed you are, and I am, of course, the Nemesis.
Wow.
Anderson.
Said that with venom in your voice. Say it again.
You have to. If you're the Nemesis, you have to have venom in your head.
It's almost like you're the Serpent Society. Say it again.
I'm going to hold out hope that these rumors that the Serpent Society are one of the villains in the new Captain America movie. I'm going to keep holding out hope until I'm officially told that it's not happening.
That would be so cool if they were.
That's the rumor.
That would get me to watch a Captain America movie. But you're not Nemesis. You're Jason Wood, everybody, here again on this everyday average episode sponsored by who?
Way to sell listeners. This is an everyday average episode.
This is an average episode. If you like this and you like them all, it's cheapgraphicnovels.com sponsors us. It's right there in the name, you people. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. That's where you go to get cheapgraphicnovels.com. Trade paperbacks, Omniboo, that manga stuff that the kids are vibing on. They have it all. And get this, there is a massive Conan sale underway. 55% off. Trade paperbacks, Omniboo, the Marvel stuff, the Dark Horse stuff, all of it, until June 23rd. You got some time. There's a big selection, and I know it's going to take some time to pick out your favorites, but it ends on June 23rd. Also, if you are a first-time customer, you place an order, something small, and you will get a confirmation saying, thank you for placing an order with this fine establishment. Wonderful person. We know we're going to fill it, and then we'll get it out to you. And this is then when you take action. You reply to the order confirmation saying, hey, 11 O'Clock Comics sent me. And you get another reply saying, guess what, my friend? Your next order, shipping's on us. And that's the cue to what? Load up.
Yep, order big.
Pile high, y'all.
Yes, because shipping is ridiculous.
Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah, so is drag racing.
See, that's the people shipping stuff. They want to get it too fast.
I love it.
But
Perfect.
Yes. I was going to order a record today, and the shipping was more than the record. And I said, no, thank you. I don't need it that bad. I really don't. So, it's in these times, we must be very frugal about our shipping. And this is going to get you free shipping. Well, you can't get more frugal than that. CheapGraphicNovels.com. They are the best. Maximum savings, maximum truth, yo.
Maximum effort.
You heard.
Maximum effort, yes. Maximum carnage. I am drinking. You shut up, Jason. You're cute, but you're not that cute. I am drinking cherry limeade, 0 sugar, 0 calories, 0 caffeine, 0 sodium, 100% taste. I don't know what's in it. It must be magic or sea monkeys. Who knows? But it tastes really good, but there just doesn't seem to be anything in it. It's good. Okay, move on.
It's good.
Yeah. Yep.
What you drinking, Jason?
Got two things here. You heard me open my can of Schweppes pink grapefruit,
Heard you drink it too.
and then I got some G0 little fruit punch flavor tonight.
Nice.
Lord.
We gotta get turned one of these weeks.
Well, we would be if we were in Heroes like we should.
Oh, we'd be
getting turned right now.
Yeah, we'd be getting turned. Yep.
That is true. I'm just I decided to enjoy some of my old friend, the Michter's US 1 unblended American whiskey.
Nice.
Nice.
You know, we're excited. We're very excited.
Why
week.
are we
excited.
excited?
But
Very excited.
we are very excited. But I think we need to leaven that excitement with some cold hard truth.
Oh,
and yeah, and this week we lost a giant.
Oh, for sure.
I know you don't go in, with a death, but you can't help it.
It's deserved here, I think.
Yeah.
It's you can't. There's no way to try to just. You can't brush over it. You can't just say, "Oh, BTW, RIP." There's nothing. He's deserving of it. And we're not trying to bring the room down because we're going to celebrate everything that he gave to us. So how is that not Jesus? How is that not? No, it's a time to celebrate. It is.
Unless you're John Jr., right? And family.
Oh, sure. Well, of course.
Yeah,
right.
but I mean,
we haven't been specific, but we lost John Romita Sr.
Yes.
this week. If you want to talk architect, yeah, he was one of them. He was one of the guys that established the look and the feel of the Marvel Universe. He was the dude that they brought in to, quote, correct or to fix Gil Kane. Okay. If you think Gil Kane needs fixing, then hey, maybe that's on you. I don't know. But Romita Sr. had a very, very distinctive look. Beautiful, beautiful women. Crushingly handsome men. Drew heroes, heroic proportions like nobody else. My all-time favorite cover of The Amazing Spider-Man was drawn by Romita. It's a cover that has been like the Double K Ranch, just burned straight into my brain. I've been branded by that cover. So to be able to pick up a common pencil and a piece of paper and just knock something out of your imagination that will affect a person, a living organism for decades. Like, that's power. That is powerful shit. And Romita had that in spades, right?
he did. He was pretty much Marvel's like traffic manager, like you said, like kind of correcting mistakes. So everything was by style, and he had a hand. He was kind of a co-creator for so many characters just because of what was done in the bullpen, not on the finished published page, but a lot of characters that the 70s, late 60s, 70s that were produced in comics, he had a hand in designing before it got to that point. So he is, as far as I'm concerned, he is as much as Marvel as Stan Lee. That there's you can't, whether he was drawing the Spider-Man daily strips for a while, whether he was drawing the Amazing Spider-Man book, whether he was doing covers, he's also somebody who, and I haven't read a ton of interviews, but similar to, say, Archie Goodwin, I haven't heard anybody ever say anything negative about Senior. But it's, and unlike some of the other stories you might hear from the bullpens of the 60s and, about how misogynistic or sexist it may be, nothing like that, as far as I know, ever came out about him. But it's just, and since you mentioned Gil Kane, I guess that's something that he and that Gil and Kirby have in common, since both publishers decided to try to fix what they thought was wrong with their flagship characters. But no, I loved seeing the collaboration with the Remeters when John Jr. would draw something and Romita Sr. would ink him, and he's just a very distinct style. I love the look of the characters. He's the reason why Spidey and Peter look the way they did for decades.
Yeah.
It's not his never mind his fingerprints. His handprints are all over the Marvel universe.
Yeah, we were chewing the fat at the Comics on the Green this Wednesday, and Dave, owner, said, I've read, I think, every interview with Romita Sr. that was ever published. And the one commonality between all of them was, one, he didn't think he was all that good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He said, oh my goodness, I have to follow this Ditko guy on Spider-Man. I'm not that distinctive. I'm not that visually electrifying. And then he said, follow Kirby. How could I follow Kirby? I can't compete with the power. And it's like, you can, because you are that good. And he didn't think he was any big shakes, and he never ever to push the flip side of what Dap was saying. He never ever badmouthed anyone in an interview or in print or at one of the trade shows. Like he was always complimentary. If he didn't think, I don't even know, but if he didn't think you weren't that good, he probably didn't say it, right? Because he was just a gentleman. Like the guy was a class act all around. Yep.
Yeah, I mean his to me, I know this is going to offend our buddy Crusade, but Romita Spider-Man is the Spider-Man that I think of when it first comes to mind.
Sure.
For me,
you're not alone.
Yeah, and that's of course no shade on Ditko, but it just became so iconic. And really, I mean, part of that is that his version of Spider-Man was the one that they used everywhere for marketing purposes. Like anytime you saw Spider-Man in merch or stickers or on a logo or in a opening of cartoon logo, like it was always the Romita Spider-Man head. So, that went a long way to that. But yeah, I never got to meet him. Did you guys ever meet him?
No,
I didn't. I saw him at a one of the there was a convention in the 80s in the city. But it was where it was when I got those Paul Smith knockoffs too. Some dude was just trying to basically trace over Paul Smith, so I picked up Scott Summers' headshot and Logan. But and what was funny is when I bought those and I'm still walking through what was basically Artist Alley, one of the artists asked what I had, so I showed him, and he says, "Oh, I didn't know Paul Smith was here." And I was like, "No, I got it from," and that, but I didn't know. I wasn't as keenly aware of necessarily different art styles. I just saw that it was Cyclops and one of my favorite characters, so I got it. But Romita Sr. was, I didn't say anything to him. I didn't know him at the time. I was too young, but he was at that con that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never had a chance. And I guess you could say he was the Marvel version of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, because he was on all the underoos, all the most of the value stamps were the Marvel value stamps. Were
Exactly.
All those headshots, yeah.
He was just the template. He was the guidebook, the Bible. So yeah, and pretty much defined the Kingpin. Not only like Spider-Man, like Peter and Spider-Man, but the Kingpin is all Romita Sr. Like on 100%. But yeah, just an amazing craftsman. From what we hear, a hell of a nice guy, and tip of the hat if you wear one, and if you don't, just bow, because the guy has earned it. Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting because he, the way my mind works is when he passed, I thought, oh man, I wonder how many characters he created, and then I went and looked, and it's funny, I guess, because unless you were Kirby, you didn't create many characters at Marvel. Like it was, like he obviously worked on a ton of them, but he didn't create as many. He's only officially credited with 32 Marvel characters, which is a lot. I mean, like that's obviously, but it's not like I would have expected to see hundreds, just because he was so prolific. And but certainly in terms of the Spider-Man mythos, he created the Punisher, he created Luke Cage, created. No, he didn't. Did he create Gwen? No, he didn't. Yeah, no, George Stacy he created.
But he did the template for Gwen. Like maybe Gwen existed before he got his hands on her, but Gwen will always. And even
he created Mary Jane though.
Even Mary Jane looks like is
Yeah.
Romita Senior.
Well, that's Romita. He said he said that he used Anne Margaret as the model. He was trying to draw Anne Margaret. So.
Good choice. Excellent choice. Yeah.
Bye Birdie.
Yep.
So.
All right.
And of course, most importantly, he created Rattler, one of the aforementioned members of the Serpent Society. So.
Thank you for all that, and Rattler.
Yes, that's right.
So, R.I.P. John Romita Sr.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
So, the exciting part of this week, it was a weird Wednesday. Full confessions, we knew, as did seemingly many people, that Daniel Warren Johnson was going to be doing the Transformers at Image. We've known this for a long time.
Judging by the internet reaction to it, I feel like half the internet knew too.
Yeah, so we're not special at all. But,
right.
We were special that night.
Yeah, Daniel was super excited when he was telling us, and he swore us to secrecy. You can't tell anyone. I'm just excited. And when he let fly, I thought it was like the perfect marriage between somebody I love and respect and those big ass robots that have been around in our lives forever. Mm-hmm. So push comes to shove, this Wednesday we get the release of a book called Void Rivals, #1, which was written by Robert Kirkman, illustrated by Lorenzo De Felici, with color art by Mateus Lopez. And it was a stealth launch of something that they're calling the Energon universe at Image.
Crazy.
And it even has its own little corner box.
It does, right? The EU. It's got
EU. It's fucking crazy. But so I was lucky enough to get a copy. Why? Because I really like Lorenzo De Felici's art. And if you remember, I talked up Chroma as it was coming out. Beautiful book. Didn't make a whole lot of sense, but story-wise. But the art was phenomenal. So when this was solicited in previews a couple months ago, I was like, yeah, why not? I'll try it. So I pre-ordered it. Luckily, the retailers were caught unaware on this book. From what Dave tells me, they were alerted to the fact that this was going to tie into the Transformer stuff maybe a little later than they comfortable, and they couldn't or didn't adjust their orders accordingly. So a lot of people were left without. And I'm guessing it's a good thing. Not for retailers, obviously, but in terms of getting the word around, this book has generated a big-ass buzz. #1, because it ties into this world that not only will introduce the Transformers into this Image Energon universe, but G.I. Joe as well. And the origin of G.I. Joe is tied very closely to the origins of, or the existence of, the Transformers, which is great. That makes a whole lot of sense. But this would all be for nothing if the book wasn't good. If Kirkman didn't put up or shut up, it would be like, yeah, this is great, this is fun, okay, whatever. But the book was kind of lame. That's not the case here, because the book was really, really well done. Which is good, because it gives me hope that we're going to see some great Transformers G.I. Joe stuff at Image. Jason, you're quiet. What do you think?
Dude, you're so funny when you say that. Like, what would you want me to be talking over you and interrupting you? Like, it's so crazy. Like, you literally were setting it up, and then quiet. Like, I'm waiting for you to finish. Dude.
All right, good. Yeah, this book was so well done.
Yeah, I mean, I was. You know, I kind of have a standing rule. I try the first issue of any Image comic, so I was, but yes, like you said, going in, I didn't have huge expectations.
Good.
In fact, Dap every week on the Slack does a thing where he asks us to all list our 5 books that we're most excited for that week, and And I did not mention Void Rivals in my 5. It wasn't one that I was like clamoring to read. I was planning on reading it, but it wasn't something I thought, well, damn, I can't wait to check this out. And I will say, I know you mentioned Chroma. DeFelici and Kirkman have a long-standing partnership because he was the co-creator of Oblivion Song, which is probably like the least read of Kirkman's books, I feel like, but it went on for 30 plus issues. And DeFelici was the artist on that and co-creator. So they have a long-standing relationship. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh no, this is good. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's kind of like it's not the opening salvo wasn't breaking any ground. It's a space book where two people have crashed onto a desolate planet. They are mortal enemies from either species or planets. I'm not sure which, but their peoples are bitter, almost perennial enemies. Like it's embedded in their culture to even talk to each other or reveal themselves to each other or acknowledge each other as a crime in their world. They're basically this blood oath to kill each other, but they're trapped on this planet, and their only hope of getting off is working together, seemingly. So that's not a new setup, right? Like there's lots of, it's like Enemy Mine. It's like,
that's the obvious comparison.
Yeah, of course. Right.
But the thing, I mean, I think you're underselling it, that now we get two races intertwined with the Transformers G.I. Joe mythology. You got the Agorians and the Zertonians. Like, these are just two things that Kirkman just came up with, and now they're as long as the Transformers G.I. Joe universe is going to be at Image, now these are canon. This is stuff that's going to matter. And it's like, the thing that just blew me away was the first sequence where Derek, he's the male Agorian, he's unconscious, and he has a glove-based AI that's called a handroid. That is fucking brilliant. It's so stupid, so silly, but it's brilliant.
Works.
No,
It's so fitting.
Right, and the thing drags him across the terrain, like it's pulling him towards the med kit. But it looks like the character himself is pulling himself, but he's unconscious. But it's the glove, it's the handroid that is pulling him. Like, I'm like looking at it, and I had to look at it more than once because you don't really know what's going on first couple pages of a comic. You got to get the lay of the land and the visual language. You got to soak it up. Yeah, but this thing is, his hand is pulling him and it's talking. I'm like, this is insane. It's just so much fun. And it's zero pretense. Like, it's not fluffy or it's not lowbrow, but it's not exactly Philip K. Dick.
Precious.
Like, no, it's not. It's fun. It's like,
right.
What? And I don't have a long history with Kirkman. Like, I've disliked more than I've liked from him. We don't want to get into it, but I'm just saying. But I thought this issue was really well done. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And then as they're trying to figure out how to get off this planet, both of their ships are jacked up, but they realize that there's another ship. And I got to give DeFelici credit, because when we first see the ship in this 3/4 splash, it's wedged in between two rockets like a quarry, and it's kind of wedged in between them. And you see what we now know to be a wing, but at the time I thought it was just like the back tail of a giant ship. And you can't really tell what the ship is in that. It's just that you can see it's a giant ship, and they're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And then you turn the page, and you may or may not realize, but then you look and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I recognize that shape. But then it's even that, like, I didn't really notice. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then that last panel, man.
Yeah.
Right?
I think when you see the red stripe, you know what's up.
Yeah, no, you're in retrospect, I would agree. I didn't notice it reading, like, it wasn't until the next page when I put it all together. But because I just wasn't even, like, it just didn't even dawn on me to think that there might be a tie-in. So I just wasn't. And then fucking it's Jetfire.
It's
fucking Jetfire.
Where
and not only is it a Transformer, but it's fucking Jetfire, dude. Like,
well, I think we need to explain that to people who don't know, because so conceptually, the fact that they encounter Jetfire first is everything. It's so smart, it hurts, because you have two factions at war. two opposing factions, right? Jetfire has two affiliations. He was Decepticon and Autobot. So he represents the two warring factions of Cybertron. Like, it's crazy how smart the fact that they used Jetfire as the first Transformer that we encounter in the Image universe.
And it's smart on all levels. It's smart because it definitely was intentional, like you said, and you know that because not only does it make sense, but he and both Kirkman and DeFelici deserve credit here, because Kirkman, who writes the words, obviously, when he's saying, "I'm Jetfire, I'm a Cybertronian scientist," and there's no indication, no mention of Decepticon or Autobot. And then DeFelici, who draws a beautiful Jetfire, there's no insignia. There is no chest insignia. It is blank. Right. He is neither Decepticon nor Autobot, at least not in this book. And I was like, oh man, and it's just so cool because he wakes up and he's like, oh shit. Like, I'm gonna sleep for a long time, and he transforms and he flies off and leaves them there.
Oh yeah, he's like, "Fuck you guys, I'm out of here."
Yeah, he's like, I gotta go home.
Yeah, and it's just like so. Really, it is quite possible that there was no need for him to be in this book. I mean, it is entirely possible that this book goes on from here, and there's little or no involvement of the Transformers. But the fact that they use this to not only pull this in and say, hey, this really is a new shared universe, but also to give us that moment of fan service that we weren't expecting. I mean, it is hard for me to be genuinely surprised by a comic in 2023. And I felt like a little kid for a moment there. I was like, this is so fucking cool. Like, you got me. I was like, you guys got me. This is great.
Yep.
So,
and it's very strange because it's both the worst kept secret in comics and the best kept secret.
That's where they deserve credit too, because for as much as we're joking that everybody knew also too, theoretically it was a secret that they had the license, right? They never publicly admitted they had the license until this week. But again, I think that's something everybody knew. I mean, there was a soul or a website that wrote about comics that didn't at least opine that Skybound had the license, even though it wasn't official. So there were three levers. There was that part, which I think everybody correctly guessed or knew was true. Then there was the DWJ Transformers thing, which I think a far smaller subset of the fandom knew, but we weren't the only ones. And then there was this moment, which I think is the thing that got us all. I mean, unless you work for Skybound, I don't think you knew this was happening.
No,
I don't think.
Right? Well, even last week when Skybound sent out the PDF, half the book was redacted.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly. Once she goes out and she runs back, she's like, "Oh, you got to see what I found." It's like from that point on, it's just like it's nothing but white blank pages.
Yeah.
So retailers, anybody who was getting that email, no one's going to know.
I could see being a retailer and being a little bit ticked.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm for sure that costs.
I mean, it's
money.
the whole purpose of previews and everything like that. Like, you do everything so that you can help out the retailers. And again, we've said it before, it's not necessarily the reader's responsibility to keep LCSs afloat, but you would think that the publishers would try to help the people selling their books out a little bit. That is kind of a dark spot on how great this issue was. And I mean, as far as a fan, as far as readers go, yes, I mean, this was cool for us. If you're a retailer trying to sell books and trying to, take advantage of something that could help you, I could see somebody getting a little bit.
You know what I would have done if I was Kirkman? I would have, I don't know what the print run of this book was, but I would have printed whatever. If the orders were like, say, let's be realistic. If the orders were like 8,000, 10,000 on this book, I don't know what an average Kirkman book is, so I'm just going to say 10,000.
Oh no, I'm sure this is. I would say 50 to 75,000.
Okay, if the order, I mean, Kirkman's got the money. If the orders for this book were, say, 75,000, and you knew going in that you were going to do this little subterfuge, this little stealth launch of Transformers, but you weren't going to scream it from the rooftops, I would have added at least 25% more to the print run, or maybe even 50% more. And then after everybody was surprised and the retailers were like, what the hell? I would say, don't worry about it. We have X amount of first printings remaining. Fill those damn orders. That's what I would have done.
Well, I think their plan was a little different in that they probably knew that this would be a surprise and that they'd go back for a second print run. And they've I just posted in the Skype that today they launched the first two variants conveniently, and they're both Jetfire cover variants. So like the cat's out of the bag now, and I would imagine that although it's not my bag, lots of people are very much cover chasers. I would imagine that first variant cover with with Jetfire. Now, interestingly, in that cover, there's an Autobot logo, but I would imagine that cover is going to be massively ordered.
There's for the first issue, there's one in 100 DWJ cover. That's
there you go.
That's going for money.
And the variant, the list of artists for the first cover. Ethan Young, of course, Mateo. You got Jim Matthew Roberts, Rigel, our boy Alex Rigel. So I mean, there were a ton. I mean, that's just a couple, but there were a ton of variant covers for the first issue by some really, really talented artists.
I could see somebody.
Yeah, I'm just talking about for the second printing. Printing.
Yeah. I could see somebody who lives and breathes on first printings being pissed off about this. Like,
I'll get over it.
I'm glad I got one, but I know that if I didn't, I would be able to get a second printing next week, and I wouldn't care. Right. But because I'm sure there's other than the cover, there's not going to be anything different between my issue and their issue, whatever. But man, the excitement when I turned the page and it was Jetfire, like Jason said, it was crazy.
You posted in the Slack, wow, and I'm thinking, like everybody, like, what book did Vince just finish reading? So of course, then I did what Dap and I have the advantage of that they all don't. I hopped over to our EOC Slack, which is just three of us, and like looked at what you've been reading, because we keep a little log. For those that don't realize, we all try and keep a little log of the stuff we're reading, at least the stuff we would be cool with talking about. And I'm like watching you, looking at your thing, and I'm like, nothing. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. And then like an hour or two later, I looked after I was done working out, and there was like Void Rebels. I'm like, wait, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, Vince is like flipping out over a Kirkman book. I'm like, right. So then I go and I'm like, I gotta read this, because like I said, I had it, but I was like, all right, well, it wasn't something I felt like I got to read this immediately. And then I read it. I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, Dad's gonna read this too, because we're gonna be talking about it.
It's so hard to surprise us at this point in our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
And they did it. Kudos to
they done did it. Now, what do you think of the story? Because then it goes on from there, and again, I thought that the reveal, the cliffhanger was predictable, but I'm here for it. Like, I think it could be cool, and I don't know if this is a story. I don't know if this is a series that is meant to go on a long time, or it's going to be I have no idea. I don't think it's a limited series. So, but I don't know if he's got plans for 10 issues or 100 issues, or I don't know. But I thought it was cool. Like it definitely. No, I was flying high after the interstitial spoiler, so I don't know that, like, my reaction may have been overdone in the sense that I'm like, oh, this comic was great, but I liked it. I mean, I'm definitely putting aside the Jetfire stuff, I'll definitely come back for issue number 2.
Well, in for a penny, in for a pound with me. So if I'm going to be, neck deep in the Transformers at Image, I'm going to buy this. And the fact that they announced that Mooneyham is going to be drawing G.I. Joe, I'm going to buy that. So this book won't leave my pull list. As long as it's intertwined with the Transformer stuff, I got to
according to the back
it.
matter.
Yeah.
It says the Energon universe has arrived, and that the Transformers and G.I. Joe shared universe continues every month in Void Rivals, with the next issue coming out July 19th. So, I mean, it could very well be that these two end up finding another Transformer as they go looking to find out a way to get off this planet. So, I don't think it was, here's Jetfire and that's it. We may not see anything in the second issue, but I'm pretty sure, because the first issue of Transformers is coming out in October. So they've got time to pad some things out so that Jetfire still has to get to Cybertron, obviously. But, I don't think we're going to see anything G.I. Joe related on this planet, but I think we might see another Transformer or two before the first issue drops.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's not the first time Jetfire has been woken from a very long slumber. So, true. Yeah, he seems to fall.
I mean, it's like a narcoleptic. He's a cyber narcoleptic.
He's the
Rumpelstiltskin over here.
Rumpelstiltskin of the Cybertron unit. Yeah.
So when is G.I. Joe #1 coming out?
Well, so that's the thing. So this is interesting because I think there was a lot of excitement by me included today of subsequent news, but I do think it needs a clarification. So yesterday was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday when all this happened. Skybound put out an official press release, again, telling everyone what we already knew, which is that they have the licenses to the Hasbro stuff. So they've got a Transformers and G.I. Joe. And in the press release, they mentioned that in addition to Void Rivals, we would be getting, again, the Daniel Warren Johnson Transformers book, which we knew. And then they said we would be getting the first of 4 G.I. Joe related limited series. Okay. The first being Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley's Duke #1. Again, shout out to our boy Tom Riley. And then in January, so a month later, we'll be getting Williamson writing with Andrea Milana on art Cobra Commander limited series, and they have not announced the other 2. So that's all groovy. But then today we got an announcement that they will be continuing with with G.I. Joe. Where they will be bringing over the continuing series with Larry Hama writing and Chris Mooneyham drawing, and it will maintain the numbering 301. Now, for those of you that haven't been paying attention for a while, I don't blame you because the G.I. Joe comics have been rough at IDW for a long time. Many years ago, to IDW's credit, they hired Larry Hama to restart the G.I. Joe comic from Marvel right where he left off. So even though they were putting out other G.I. Joe comics that had their own continuity, they hired Hama and Nostalgia Push to do the ongoing comic. And he did that for a long time for IDW, many years, and picked up with the old numbering. And I even talked about on the show a few months back, the final issue was a giant oversized issue number 300. And it was frankly, it was a bad issue, not because of his doing, because again, the art I thought was really disappointing. And I think the only claim to fame of that issue was that there was a cover that had hundreds and hundreds of G.I. Joe and Cobra characters, and at least the claim is that it is a world record for the most characters on a comic book cover. Now I don't know if that's been vetted or not, but that was the gimmick. But in any event, so they announced, which is pretty cool, that Larry will be continuing his run on the original series with 301 at Skybound. But I think what's important to note, and it wasn't clear when the announcement was made, but it's clear now, I think, that will not be part of the Energon universe. Like, it's going to be its own thing. It's G.I. Joe, and it's going to continue the G.I. Joe story Hama's been telling for 30 years. And it will be drawn by Mooneyham. But that will be separate from this Energon universe, which Josh Williamson is helming with these 4 limited series, introducing us to the characters. And the way it's being touted there is the big thing on the Energon universe is that G.I. Joe is inextricably linked to the Transformers.
Good.
Like their existence, their origin, it's all tightly connected about, and I'm guessing part of it is like G.I. Joe forms in part to deal with the Transformers coming to Earth. So Skybound is also going to be doing what many publishers have done with G.I. Joe, or it seems like they're going to have like the continuity for the nostalgia heads over here doing its own thing with and all of that canon will remain, and then a reboot completely for those people that just want to get a new adventure. Now I'm in for all of it because I have always wanted to love Larry's continuing run at IDW, but and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but the art for the most part, not always, but for the most part was terrible, like inexcusably bad, and it really was a frustration. So that will not be the case with Mooneyham doing it, at least. And I don't know how long Mooneyham plans to do it. He's not known to be super quick, so I don't think he's someone that's going to put in like 50 issues in the book. But if he gives us 6 to 10 to 12 issues to start it off, it's going to look great, and it's going to be a fun read. So,
yeah, I agree. Now that Transformers and Joe are at Image, and yes, they are properties that are owned by and large by a toy company, my mind just starts to wander and think, what if some of the our old favorites get remade by Mr. McFarlane into action figures along the lines of what he's doing with the 40K.
Oh, you mean McFarlane Toys doing Transformers and Joes?
Yes.
That's interesting. It'd be really interesting if he did the Joes because, I mean, the G.I. Joe Classified line is so much like that already, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't... But the Transformers, yeah, that's a whole nother
like pay Hasbro some kind of licensing fee, whatever. I'm sure I'm guessing that the 40K stuff is not coming cheap to McFarlane.
Right.
And he's doing a really good job with those. But just to see like, a Megatron with the cape in McFarlane style, or an Optimus from World Without It, like it would be great to see just limited. I don't want to hold massive figures. We don't need Cliff Jumper, right? But just to see select few McFarlane-esque Transformers and Joes would be really cool. But I mean, that's just it's a pipe dream because Hasbro is a toy company. So I don't know.
It's pretty uncanny though. I mean, if you think about it, I found it fascinating that Hasbro. I mean, Super 7 is making Joe figures at the same time that Hasbro is making G.I. Joe Classified. So
it's true. Yeah.
I mean, they even put out some of the same figures, which is like at the same time, which is kind of weird.
Right. Yep.
Either way, and I assume too. I mean, I'm sure there's no way they're putting this kind of muscle behind this Energon universe if this is all we're getting. I mean,
no, they got plans. Yeah,
we'll get multiple Transformers related books probably on an ongoing basis by 2024, and multiple Joe books, I would assume.
Yep. And I'm saying it right now. I will buy them all in single issues.
Wow.
Yeah. That's fun. You get to read them probably. I'm guessing they're shooting for every week that there's a Transformer or a G.I. Joe book coming out from Image. I'm guessing. But anyway, you asked about what we thought about the after the reveal, where there's another reveal where Derek and Solila they take their helmets off because the shit hits the fan and wires get literally crossed, and Solila's ship was the less destroyed of the damaged of the two. So they were going to work with that and see if we can use the parts from Derek's ship to replace the bad stuff on Solila's. And they were pretty amazed, like, hey, you know what? The tech in these ships are not too different. With little nudge or a tweak here or there, they're pretty similar. And they're like, oh, okay. And you should have seen it coming by that point, because the wires get crossed and Solila's ship goes kablooey. And that's when she leaves and finds Jetfire. But when they come back, Derek is inspired by what he saw with Jetfire. He's like, that ship transformed and transformed again, and that was the way off of this planet. What if we use our flight suits and the technology within them to, use the tech from that and maybe get something cobbled together where we can both get off this planet? And so in order to do that, they had to take their helmets off. And here's where it's coming. You've seen it. They take their helmets off, and save for the difference of this little forehead gem they got going on, there's different shapes, but other than that, they're essentially the same race, same skin color. They're not human, but they're anthropomorphic and they're humanoid, and they're like, holy shit, we look a lot alike. And that's cool, because if you're going to hammer home the Cybertronian plight, they said it at IDW, till all are one. We came from the same pot, and we won't be satisfied until we're all together again. So that's the same thing going on with these two races, these Agorians and the Zertronians. They were lied to and told untruths, and they believed them as gospel. And now these two characters are finding out that maybe they were fed bad information, and they're both the same race essentially. So that's cool. Conceptually, it ties into the Transformers. And it's great. And I thought it was wonderful. I'm very excited about this book.
Yeah. I mean, Dak, you have the least nostalgic pull of us to those titles, certainly. So what did you think of it?
The titles, because I was buying the Marvel books back in the day. Loved the cartoons, of course. I absolutely love the fact that they're trying to get the sound effects for when Jetfire transforms into here. That's great. I I know Vince hates it when I'm happy, but I am seriously happy that this exists for you too.
I don't hate it when
And
you're happy. No, 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 no. I don't hate it at all. In
I
fact,
know,
I
I
love
know
it when
you
you're
do.
happy.
I'm
When you use the fact that something makes you smile.
what the hell's going on tonight?
Jesus. When you say this made me smile,
Uh-huh.
that's the benchmark for a good issue. Made me smile. This is you say this is you gave me a hard on. I'd be like,
No,
yes.
yes. This made me smile.
Nice.
I am extremely happy that they're going to attempt. They, meaning the people taking charge of the properties, are going to do right by you two and
Let's
fans of
hope.
the franchises. Well, you guys have suffered for a long time, so even this is a glimmer, is a light in the darkness. So, um, I will be. I, I will be following along, just so that I can see what you guys are talking about. But no, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't know what to expect going in. I I didn't. I wasn't aware of the reveal as we were discussing things yesterday. But when I finally read it, um, I I was intrigued, and again, yeah, the concept of these two races, these two aliens who hate each other, only to actually be the same. That's not new. Whether it's you go back to the original Star Trek series or everything since then. There's just, or like you said, Enemy Mine. There are we're more alike than we are different. I'm curious to see how they get off this planet. So I mean, there are a few things. It's not like it's just a free comic book day issue where, hey, here's a tease of something that we're doing with the Hasbro stuff. Uh, we got Jetfire who bounced, and now we still have to deal with these two characters, and so I like that Kirkman gave us enough so that people didn't just read this issue and go, okay, well, now I can just wait till Transformers #1 comes out in October, and the hell with Void Rivals. I think he left enough here where even if you just want to know about these two characters or what the hell this world is about or what their war may be about or more about them, I dug that as well. So it wasn't just a one note kind
Right.
of issue where you can kind of just here it is and see you later. But the art's fantastic. Dug the art a lot. I really did. I really did like it. I think that I it's not so much that I could say I trust Kirkman. I trust Kirkman's ability to put these put these properties in hands of other people who can deliver strong stories, and giving someone like Warren Johnson the Transformers. That's just, I mean, kind of tailor made. That's pretty much the definition for that. And uh, Williamson has proven he can write good stories. So the two minis should be fun. Yeah, no, I'm optimistic. I'm feeling good about it, and this was a very, very strong first start. First step. I'm glad he didn't. We didn't have someone like Kadransky draw it, or just anybody who's
Ooh,
just
shut your filthy mouth.
I mean, like if this was at Marvel, you'd have Greg Land or LaRocca drawing it. It's just one of those things where it's just like, hey, it's a big deal, so we're going to bring it. But this was kind of just subtle. It was slightly under the radar,
Yeah.
and it hit the ground running. Fired on all cylinders. Any other kind of metaphors you want to throw out there? But I thought it was a really, really good first issue. I'm excited for the future for these properties.
I think De Felici's brushwork is excruciatingly beautiful. He works a brush a lot like Mateo. And I thought the art was great.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit. Yeah,
But
yeah, I liked it. I like the designs. I like the characters. It's weird. I mean, Image is doing this whole thing right now with like helmeted characters. With you've got this, you got Radiant Black, or whatever the hell other things Kyle Higgins is working on. It's just there's a lot of helmets going on right now at Image, and but yeah, I thought it was, and of course, I mean, they need to wear helmets. They're in space suits. They're out in space, and then you have the the reveal, and so they have a reason to take him off. But I think you're right with the artwork.
I can't wait till they start fucking.
Oh, they're going to.
Oh, you know it. You know they're going to.
They're going to repopulate this planet.
He's like, how about this dick? And she's like, okay.
Well, maybe they're aliens. Maybe she's got the dick.
And then you hear, that's okay. Hey, that's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
It is.
When Dap was talking about who Marvel would choose for their big, for some reason it made me immediately think of John Cassaday, because remember they put him on Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
What happened to John Cassaday?
I don't know.
Not that I'm complaining, but what happened to him?
Doesn't he have a hand with humanoids?
Does he?
I don't know.
No one's really been looking for him, so.
I just realized though, like you said, I'm like, oh wait, it's been a minute since I saw John Cassaday around.
Yeah. I'm glad that Kodransky's having success with this Epic thing, because then he can go play in his own damn sandbox.
Facts.
And nobody's got to look at it. Well, people who aren't reading it don't have to look at it. So good. Congratulations. Congratulations on all your success. Stay the hell off my books. Yeah. Yeah. I've and you know what? For those who think I'm spewing the haterade, nah. I've given Kodransky, by way of Spawn, a lot of money. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. a good chunk of change. So there we go.
Right.
All right. What else do we have, folks?
A few, two, three things. I want to give a shout out to. And I know we joked about. I don't know if it made the pregame or but it is. We're recording on Thursday night, which many of our good friends are either already descending upon or soon will be descending upon Charlotte for Heroes Con. And we are unfortunately not there this year, but we'll be back next year. But one of the people that is in attendance is a gentleman by the name of Dan T. And he, on our Patreon Slack, maybe like a month or even 2 months ago, posted a couple snapshots of interior art from a book that he was reading. And it was stunning. And we're like, what this book? And he said, oh, it's Anais Nin, The Sea of Lies. And I'm like, huh. Yeah, that book, I pre-ordered that book, but it's not coming out until June. I don't know how Dan T did it. He's a special dude. He's got connections. But somehow or another, my dude got this book like a month before the rest of us. Don't know how it happened. But the point is, he showed off some of the artwork, and I thought, holy shit, am I thrilled that I pre-ordered this book. And I really pre-ordered it mainly because it's Fantagraphics hardcover, and that's generally all I need. I have incredible faith in Fantagraphics in that regard. So it finally arrived. And boy, oh boy, did it live up to the hype. For those that don't know, Anais Nin is not a made-up name. That is this is a biographical graphic novel of sorts, and I'll explain why I say of sorts. But Anais Nin passed away in 1977 at the ripe age of 73 years old. But she is, or was, I should say, a very well-known and somewhat renowned writer. I'll say writer because she was at times a diarist. At other times, she wrote erotica. I think she's generally considered one of the forefathers of erotica, particularly feminist erotica. She was one of the first women, one of the first women to publish very explicit erotic stories for a long period of time. And this book, which was written and drawn by Leonie, so Leonie, Leonie Bischoff, like Eric Bischoff down. Leonie Bischoff, who I believe she's Swedish. I apologize if she's Swiss. I'm pretty sure she's Swedish. But either way, she wrote and drew the book, and she basically pulled parts of Anais's life from her own diaries. Again, I said Anais is diarist. Her best known works are probably her diaries. Her diaries were published in many forms, both while she was alive and then posthumously. And Bischoff pulls from those to tell the story of Anais from basically right when she's married to probably I'm guessing like maybe a 10 to 15 year span. Now, a couple things about this book. It could be perceived as disturbing at times to some, beyond that it's sexually explicit, and that's because there's incest in it. And I bring this up because I do think it's important to know, and I also think it's important to note that it's in there because it's real. She had an incestuous sexual affair with her father, completely consensual. It was of her doing. As an adult woman, she slept with her father. So again, like, this is taboo stuff, right? This is not like stuff you would normally, like, many people might read that and immediately be put off. And so I want to forewarn people that is in here. And that is not like, if you know anything about her or if read anything about her, that is a well-known thing about her life. So it's not, again, this is not like some kind of shocking realization if you knew anything about her. But I'm sure many people that are picking this up on the strength of a recommendation or that it's Fantagraphics will have no idea about her life before this and will probably be like, wait, what? So I did just want to put that out there. But in essence, she was a woman who was in constant search of meaning for her life and purpose. And part of that was her trying to define her own sexual identity. And that led to her being extremely open-minded sexually in all ways, both in who she chose to sleep with, what she did with them while they were in the bed, and was very much unapologetic about it, which was quite taboo. Remember, this didn't happen in 2023. This happened in the early 1900s. This was like, whatever you think of taboo now, this was 1,000 times more taboo when she was doing it. And she was actually doing this stuff. So this book picks up where she has just married a gentleman named Hugh Guillet. He is, like her, an artist. He's a poet. But like many artists, he forgoes his art to pursue a more financially rewarding career. And he becomes a banker, and he's quite successful. They become quite wealthy, but she hates it. She absolutely can't stand it because she fell in love with an artist. She is an artist. She's a complete creative, expressive. She has no interest in money banking. So it really makes her fall out of love with him, essentially. And that at the same time leads to her having these different sexual escapades. Most notably, and I think probably the reason she's known to most people, if you do know her, she has a long, like many, many years long affair with Henry Miller, the famous writer. And also Henry Miller's wife, June, who is in some cases, at least in this book, portrayed as her true muse. She sleeps with her cousin, who's gay, her male cousin who is gay. And again, this is the early 1900s. So he is, as most gay men or women were at the time, very closeted, but she knows he's gay, and yet they sleep together. She sleeps with not one but two of her psychiatrists that she sees. Nice. She basically gets after it, and again, unapologetically. And during this whole thing, she's keeping diaries of this, and she is writing them in a way such that her husband, who knows she writes these diaries, and she lets him read them. She says, I have two diaries. I have my real diary, and then I have a diary that is another world that I can express my desires, my innermost thoughts, my fantasies in a way that helps me convey these things. Now, the trick here is that her crazy diary that she told him was made up was real. The stuff she was doing was real, but she didn't think he could handle the truth of that. And the chronicles that, and I give Bischoff credit because this book, there's a real juxtaposition between life Anais is living as a woman of means, married to a banker in Europe, and then eventually they moved to the U.S. In the early 1900s, and the structure that requires, and then this other life she's also leading, and there's this juxtaposition of what is lies, and remember the book's subtitle is A Sea of Lies. So Bischoff's work jumps back and forth from black and white charcoal and these beautiful pastel, highly illustrative pastel color and paint work. And I just thought it was such a smart choice because it really does visually express the juxtaposition of her rather mundane surface life, and then this wild life she's living beyond that. The art is absolutely just stunning. If you go to our if you go to the episode feed or forums or what have you, you'll see some of the art. But it's a fascinating work, and again, the only thing I'd caution is it is arresting if you take issue, and I understand if some do, but I will just make the point. Maybe it doesn't matter to some. Maybe it does. It's consensual, and again, listen, as I'm reading, I'm like, what the fuck? Like she goes to see her father, who she hasn't seen in a long time, and he was very egotistical. He was a music composer of some renown, and she seduces him, and he goes for it, and then they fuck, and it's like super weird for sure. But hey, it's all part of her journey, right? Like, who am I? Yeah, man, really fascinating stuff. And I have to say, I knew very little about her before all this. I'd heard of her name. I knew she had a loose connection to Henry Miller, but I didn't know to what extent. And I think it's a triumph. It really is. This has been a great year for biography comics, I will say. It's been a tremendous year. And we've got another Corin Shadmi book, DAP, coming out, Velvet Underground, he's doing next. So we've got another to look forward to. But yeah, really good stuff. Fantagraphics rarely, if ever, goes wrong, and this is another feather in their cap.
Well, after DAP, we have a Fantagraphics-O-Rama.
Yes!
And it could not be more different than you're talking it up. I'm just like, yeah, that's not the book I read. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, but you'd like this book, though.
Yeah, sure I would. Yeah, I'm looking at the art now, and I think
it's transgressive. I mean,
yeah, no. One of the things as a big fan of YouTube, it's mostly I only watch YouTube with the exception of the History Channel. There's a trend now where videos will begin saying, check the comments section for a list of trigger. Like, really? That's where we are now? That if you say incest or you cannot say suicide, but like misogyny or self-harm or bulimia, like any of that stuff is now a trigger warning. And it's a concept. It's a happening. It's a reality. But you need to be warned that this stuff is coming. Really?
The definition of a trigger is that having it brought to your attention or exposed to it causes you to feel trauma. I mean, that's what the nature of it is. Whether
right.
But I'm saying so it may not be. It may seem silly to you or one of us or a little over the top. But again, that's not like that's showing your age. Like it is a whether or not like it seems overly sensitive to us is irrelevant. Like there are people that whether or not we think it makes sense legitimately do get triggered at the idea of these concepts. Like that's why I mentioned, I mean, if someone has gone through personal trauma where they were sexually abused or something as a child or certainly by a family member, there is a good chance that you're reading a book along and you're like, oh, I'd like to, and it puts you to a place you don't want to be in. And who am I to say that they're like, I don't have a problem with them knowing that.
Yeah, I understand it. But so what? What if The Exorcist was made today? Like, does the film have to come with a warning saying, demonic possession of a minor? Like, I don't understand.
It would come with that. Yeah, at least once it was on TV, it would. Like, if you notice, right, like any TV episode now says very explicitly the things you're going to see. It'll say child abuse, explicit sexual, violence to women. Like it'll say that at the top left-hand corner. It says it like on a Netflix. Like, and to your point, I think most people just take note of it and doesn't faze them. But yeah, if you were, I watched an episode of The Americans, that show with and she was violently raped. And now again, I mean, that episode was made in 2013. So I doubt there was any warning. But today, yes, there would be a warning right up front of the episode saying this episode contains a violent sex act or violent, sex crime or violent crime, however they would word it. But you get my point. And be forewarned. And for some, they'd probably be like, yeah, it's not for me. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, I get it.
And
right? DAP didn't read We 3 because again, I'm not like I'm not comparing. Please let everyone listen. I'm not comparing like rape and incest to being upset when an animal gets killed. I'm just saying like we all have our things, right? Like if you knew going in, like Renee, like I was so surprised when Renee was willing to watch John Wick, right? Because of like what happens. It's like there are things you just know, like that. All right, I can't see this, right? Like it's not like it's just going to put me in a place I don't like. It's gonna consume me and make me unable to enjoy it, you know. So I get it. Like
you're being considerate for those. For others, there's a on Mastodon you can kind of hide any sort of images. You can let people know ahead of time. They can click it to unblur the image, but usually someone will say there's a trigger warning, and some of the trigger warnings are it could just be food because people have issues with whether they're anorexic or and somebody wants to, hey, I just made this pie. Someone may not want to see that pie, so you're just going out of your way, more or less, to if you even want to call it that, to just listen. You want to share something, but you just want to make other people aware this may not be for everyone, and it's just that's the way things are now. I have no. It takes 2 seconds.
I have no patience for that.
I know you don't. I know.
It's okay. There you go.
I'm not, but it similar to that. There's a show I just started watching that started back in like 2000 something. That would not be, if it was made today, it would be completely different, and it definitely wouldn't be on network television. So it's the things shift, man. People's tolerance, people's understanding, everything just kind of shifts after a while, and it's. I don't know. It is what it is. I know there will be people who are going to huff and puff and be like, "Back in my day." Well, we're not in your day anymore, Grandpa. So I just
I mean, it's the thing. I can't criticize that stuff, even if it doesn't usually like impact me.
Yep.
Because there's lots of things that don't exist today that did exist in media back in other times that I find offensive, and I'm glad I don't have to watch. Right. Like, so it's like, again, like a lot of with like, particularly like race relations. Right. I mean. And we've had a conversation many times. Like, I understand that when it was made, it was like socially acceptable, and so I'm not condemning those creators. I'm not saying like, oh, the fact that there was there were racial stereotypes to the extreme in old Disney cartoons makes the people who created them awful people. No, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that like, I think it's perfectly valid to look at a lens in whatever modern world you're living in and saying, no, that's not cool anymore. Like, that's not kosher. Like, again, I'm not condemning its existence or saying that people should be punished for having made it, but like, I as a consumer certainly can appreciate not having to watch it, or that it's not out there. So like, again, it is what it is. Everyone has their own path to walk, man. Like, I'm like, and I have no issue, and that's why I like actually kind of like the idea of those thing warnings, because like it doesn't preclude it from existing, right? What I don't want to see happen is that we can't make those things.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to live in a world where an Nin can't be made. I don't want to live in a world where if you feel it's important to the story to have a violent act, that you can't show, that you can't have the act. That's the world I don't want to live in, where literally it's like verboten and impossible to make art that is like if it can be made and then you can just make sure that people that are going to be offended by it don't see it, like, hey man, then that seems like a fair compromise to me in today's day and age.
Dap, what are you reading?
I gotta go look at some maple pork.
Let me see. I posted that picture on our Slack for you. Then. So looking over my list, trying not to step on anything that any of us may team up on. I'll mention this annual, since once we're done here tonight, I'm going to go watch the season premiere of Strange New Worlds. So there's a Star Trek annual that came out a few weeks ago. There's it's weird. The cover's a little misleading, sort of, kind of, because it looks like all the different non-Kelvin, everything that all the Star Trek shows from the original series to Enterprise to Discovery are all, to Strange New Worlds, are all involved in this story. So you may look at the characters and be like, "Oh, cool! It's just one of those stories where everybody kind of just meets," but the background kind of gives it away a little bit, in that these are pretty much all holograms except for the main characters of the ongoing Star Trek series, and it's a pretty neat. It reminded me of the DC annuals, Star Trek annuals from the '80s, and it's just it. There's a slight tie-in to what's coming down with the crossover with the Trek books, but it's written by Kelly and Lansing, Kelly and Jackson Lansing, art by Rachel Stott, and it's a pretty
Not Rachel Thought, right? Rachel Stott.
no, not Thought,
Oh.
Stott, and it's pretty much the main character is Scotty, so I'm always happy to see that he kind of built a failsafe into this ship, and a little bit of a glitch going on, and so the system is trying to correct itself, compensate for the issue it's having, and so the crew heads to the holodeck, and they walk onto the bridge of the original Enterprise, the James Kirk version of the Enterprise from 1967, and Kirk recognizes Scotty, and but has no idea who the other Starfleet officers are, reminding Sisko that you may be captain out there, but once you're on this bridge, you're basically just a guest. And we find out that something bad is happening to the ship, with the ship, and our crew splits up. And as they split up, and the holodeck is being attacked, or the Enterprise within the holodeck is being attacked, it's actually going to affect the rest of the ship. And they had a lot of fun with this issue, because we have the Enterprise from Strange New Worlds, which is before the 5-year refit. That's how they're explaining the way the Enterprise looks in Strange New Worlds, being so futuristic and, well, more modern to our standards than the original series bridge is, because when Pike was done and before Kirk and everybody got on the ship, that was the 5-year refit for them to go out and explore. So that's why the ships don't quite look the same. So you've got a couple of crew members hitting up the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. You've got somebody going to the NX-01 from the Enterprise show. You've got the Discovery ship where they meet Paul Stamets, and then you have the Enterprise, the HMS Enterprise from the one Star Trek movie where they were all on a boat, and and then Tom Paris actually gets to meet Zefram Cochrane, and so they're just, I really appreciate that Colin and Jackson are having a ball with the franchise, with the characters, telling some really fun stories. I thought it was really just, it really was a blast. The way Kirk definitely comes across very much like the William Shatner, James T. Kirk, and he's ready to just blow it all, and thinking that he's right, and just because he is so headstrong, and Scotty has to kind of talk him down a bit and give him some common sense. But it's just done really, really well. And then because these holograms are basically sentient beings, more or less, because they've kind of discovered a new life form, because they've kind of sprouted up, and they're treating this very similar, and Data also references the kind of droid bots, the maintenance drones that were created by a scientist in one episode of Next Generation. And the idea was that in order to save the Enterprise, these drones are going to have to sacrifice themselves, but they were hesitant, so obviously they were sentient. And of course, one of the tenets of the Federation is explore and seek out new life. And with these new holograms, they actually find a planet that they can set up a matrix, and these holograms can now live on. And you see a whole bunch of Star Trek characters from all the decades, basically just hanging out in this courtyard. All the doctors are together, whether it's McCoy and the doctor from Voyager, and the cat doctor from Lower Decks. I mean, everybody's here. You've got and then the crew, instead of playing poker, they're actually playing D&D. And Beverly is the dungeon master. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not Beverly. Data is the dungeon master, and Beverly's just having a blast with her character. But no, as far as annuals go, it served its purpose. As far as annuals for me, I mean, yeah, you can have your Armageddon 2001s and your Bloodlines and your Elseworlds, and you can have your whole line-wide summer event, whether it's the events that Marvel used to do, where they would just cobble together whatever corner of that universe and have a crossover of annuals. This was it was a done-in-one, a lot of fun with the cast, with the crew coming together, solve a problem. Everybody had their moment to shine. Everybody, it can be a little tricky with adapting live action properties, but again, these two guys have a really good grasp on all the characters that have been on TV in the various shows over the years. But I had a lot of fun with it. I'm glad I'm glad it wasn't an annual that wasn't necessarily pivotal to something major going on. It didn't necessarily kick off something else. Like I said, it does it's a bit of a countdown they have on the cover to the Day of Blood, which is the upcoming event. But aside from maybe a line or two, this can very much exist on its own. What is weird, though, is there is an image of the Chris Pine Kirk on the cover, and I don't really remember, as I'm flipping through it again, I don't really remember seeing too much of the Kelvin universe in the main story. They might appear in the courtyard panel at the end, but yeah, no, it was this was neat. So like I said, just wanted to talk about this because we have a couple other things that there might be some team ups on, so I didn't want to go too far deep into to somewhere else. But yeah, Star Trek Annual 2023. Just for Vince, it made me smile.
There you go.
Kelly and Lansing are the new Abnett and Lanning.
They really are, man. I mean, they kind of, and it's all like, I mean, except for the Captain America book, it's pretty much like all cosmic and spacefaring stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Jason, the moment you've been waiting for.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes. The other part of the Fantagraphics-O-Rama.
Rama.
This is a book written and illustrated by a multidisciplinary artist. The guy's a cartoonist, a painter, musician, producer, like he said, gallery showings. His name's Justin Gradin. You've seen his work in the pages of Now, if you're reading that, and if you're not, shame on you. He is, to my eyes, he fits in very well within the Fort Thunder aesthetic, and that is okay by me. This is published under the Fantagraphics Underground imprint, and there's a reason why the acronym is FU. The thing that got me, it's a hardcover. I opened the book, and the end papers are chains, which is cool, but the title page says Mystic Debris. It's hand lettered. It's like, okay, this is cool. But he endeared himself to me from this first title page because the shadow underneath the letters, Mystic is written vertically, as is Debris. The shadows underneath the letters are his name. So the shadow underneath the M is the J for Justin. Then it's Y, it's a U, right? So this plays into what he's doing with this book because there's layers of reality in this thing. Okay? Jason is going to absolutely hate it.
Why?
He will not like this book.
Why?
I guarantee. Well, you will listen to what it's about.
No.
Guarantee you won't like it. Starts off with a guy named Whizbang. He's a drummer for a metal band called Fascinator. And cool, what Gradin does here is he visually styles Whizbang after the wind-up battery-operated monkey with the cymbals. You know how with the real wild eyes and the mouth that peeled back and you saw the rictus in it. The Whizbang is basically the monkey, the mechanized monkey with a mohawk. Okay? And he's, I guess he's a drummer for a heavy metal band, and they're really not going anywhere. He's trying to book dates and stuff, and nobody really wants them. It's all about the DJ stuff. And he's got a wife named Planchette. And Planchette is very much enamored with an abusive, foul-mouthed, misogynistic rapping pig by the name of Jizz Bone Table. And she tells him, she says, Whizbang, you got to go get a job. The band's not working out. You got to go get employed. Maybe you should work at my dad's door factory because guess what? I'm pregnant. And he's like, oh, shit. Well, Whizbang also has a talking hooch bottle. He's got a bottle of alcohol that talks to him. Whether or not it actually talks to him and everybody else can see the bottle talking to him is not exactly explained, but it is fitting. It fits in with the conceptual framework of this book. So he's like, okay. He tries to book more dates. And it's basically a series of no-shows in bars that have no customers. Nobody shows up. Nobody gets paid. It's bad. And he eventually has to tell the band, he's like, look, Planchette's pregnant. I can't do this anymore. I got to get a job. I got to try and support, my kid-to-be. And I can't be doing this. So very quickly, Whizbang is swapped out with a guy named Slum, whose drag name is Hunty S. Thompson. And in this universe, cars are alive. They're vehicles, but they have flesh and blood parts. And this Slum guy heals Whizbang's car. And when the band finds out that he has a car and he can play drums, they're like, all right, you're in. See you, Whizbang. And Whizbang's pissed off, right? So gets back home, and the baby is born very quickly. The baby's male, and his name is Garburator Jelly Roll Alucard. So he takes a job at Planchette's father's door factory. It's not a leap conceptually to realize a door is a portal, and an open door will lead you to another reality, another existence, right? And something that is different. When you walk through a door, you exit one reality and you enter another. It's within the same conceptual space, but it's still another reality, a portal. So Planchette wins a contest, and she gets to follow Jizz on the Jet Set Jism tour. And she leaves Whizbang with Garburator, the baby. So he's bringing the baby to work, and luckily they have daycare. And he's working on doors and shit, and he hates his life, absolutely hates it. His wife is gone. He's out of the band. And one of his co-workers comes up to him and starts preaching the joys of astral projection. And that's really where the book begins. And because Whizbang starts to astral project, or at least he tries initially. and he's got the whole tether to his corporeal form, and he's trying to project, and he just can't do it. And then it gives Gradin the opportunity to play with the form of comics, because when Whizbang projects himself, the depiction of his form changes from line art to photograph. I guess Gradin actually made a Whizbang doll. Felt, I don't know, it looks like cloth to me, or real hair. It looks like a doll made into the form of the monkey. It's got the wild eyes and the teeth and everything, but it's a photo. And he uses it within the same panel as the line art stuff, which is great to my eyes, because it's visually arresting. It's diverse. It's complex, and it's like, it is a different reality. A photograph is a very different reality from a line art, right? So here's the deal. Things don't pan out for Whizbang because Planchette wants a divorce because she's fucking the jizz pig, and Fascinator hits it real big, and they get very popular, and they get a lot of media attention. And so he uses the astral plane. He hits it hard to escape reality. And the book then turns into a series of adventures within the non-physical realms. And it is insane. It is just a vehicle for Gradin to just work out these id-inspired, why not conceptual scenarios. Like in one part, there's talking slabs of meat in the background saying how much they love microwave lasagna and doing cocaine off corpses, right? And then there's this thing called Mr. Repo Man that has multi-arms, and it's nasty and just beats the shit out of everything in the Sadlands, but it looks a lot like Garburator. And Whizbang's like, that's my son, and there are entities within the realm that are like, nah, that's not your son, dude. That guy's bad. One of the really cool things is Whizbang becomes a maggot in one section, becomes a maggot, and feasts on the corpse of a woman, and he gets to experience firsthand all of the unfortunate details of the woman's life. Because if you consume your enemies, you gain their power, right? That's along the same lines. He eats the woman's flesh, and he relives all the sad events in her life. Like, this book's insane, but it's almost an exercise in just stacked concepts, like really cool stacked concepts that may not work well as if you're looking for a linear narrative, like a standard and then this book is not for you, because it's more along the lines of what if. Like, the baby is Garburator's he has a pack of nannies, and they're all floating noses. They're floating noses. Like, how do you explain that to somebody? I'm reading this book.
That's crazy. Right.
I'm reading this book, and the main character at one point falls in lust with this character that has, she has a fetish for objects. And she's like, oh, you're flesh and blood. You're normal. I don't have anything. So he gets a saxophone. He somehow finds a way to attach a saxophone as his arm. And she's, because he's an object now. And then he eventually becomes a stack of objects, a garden gnome. His face is a TV. Like, it's so weird. But how do you explain this in language? That's why I'm like, this is the kind of stuff. If it becomes very difficult for me to convey the what is with language, then I'm loving it, because I can't. Some of these things I cannot relate to you with words, and I know that sounds like a cop out, but it's not. And later on in the book, the language even becomes pictograms instead of words. like traditional English words. It's just, but again, to play into the conceptual hook with this book, there's a point in the story, in quotes, where Gradin overlays panels. And you really got to experience it yourself, because I can tell you how it works, but you need to see it. Where the sequential art are panels obfuscated by other panels laid on top of them. So there's a reality going on behind the top level reality that you don't get to see all of the specifics about what's going on in the layer reality. Like, you could tell that there's something, okay, it looks like there's a character doing something, and then it switches in this panel. There looks like a pipe or something behind it, and I don't get it. But you see the top level reality, but you're always aware that there's something going on beneath the surface of all of the events from a certain point onward. And it's really, it knocks you off your footing a little bit, because I think that's what Gradin's trying to say with this entire book. That there's the things we can see and feel and experience top level, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on below the surface that we may not be aware of. And I love this book. By far the best thing I've read this week. This may be the best thing I've read in a good chunk. It's a little spendy. It's Fantagraphics Underground. It's like maybe 200 pages, I think, and it's $40. But it's a hardcover, right? The keyholes on the cover are very important. I won't tell you what that's about, so just read it. But this is a book that I can go point A to B to C and tell you things that happen in the book, but unless you digest this and process it on your own terms, my words mean nothing. I love the art style. It is super underground. It reminds me a lot of Rory Haynes. That's a big compliment. It's very unique and very idiosyncratic, and there's dot pattern and photography, and Gradin really is confident enough to let negative space do its work, because there's a nice section where he just is very cocksure and allows the drawing to breathe. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. But unfortunately, you're not going to see a whole lot of, unless you go to Fantagraphics, you're not going to see a whole lot of examples of it online, which is weird. I don't know why. But it's great. It's wonderful. I love it. Maybe you will too. Mystic Debris, Justin Gradin, Fantagraphics Books. This is the stuff I live for.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Fanta compares it to Panther in its selling point, so I mean, no surprise that it's up your alley.
Not visually, it doesn't, but maybe conceptually, it's as unhinged as anything Panther has done. But visually, no, they're not even in the same.
Yeah,
ballpark.
no, I'm just saying the Fantagraphics says it's a cast of quixotics exists in a comics continuum with Gary Panther's Jimbo, Mark Bayer's Amy and Jordan, and Mark Bell, Shrimpy, and Paul. Yeah,
if you're talking realms beyond our own, like unique envelopes of existence, yes, it does resemble Jimbo, and it does resemble Mark. The stuff you mentioned, but I think it's great, and I love it. But I'm pretty sure.
See, it looks like they have like 6 or 7 pages of interiors. You can see on the Fanta on the
cool.
at the bottom of this list, so that's cool.
And I linked on the episode thread for this. I linked to Mr. Gradin's website because the art is just incredible. Maybe you'll get off on that too. Yes. What else do we have? Oh, look at the time. Woo!
Already.
Jason, what else you got?
Well, Dap and I have had this on our list for a couple weeks now, so we should talk about it, Dap. That's why I introduced myself as the Nemesis. We've been on a bit of a... What's that?
I read that too. So
nice.
Yeah.
So a true collabo. Although it's not on your list, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we're burying the lead. But we've been on a bit of a Mark Miller kick around here in these parts, and he's got his big crossover event coming very soon, and part of that event is tied into Nemesis, which it's interesting because I remember reading Nemesis, the original series, and frankly not thinking that much of it at the time. I was like, and I like Miller a lot, but not everything hits. So when a lot of our boos were talking up Nemesis Reloaded, I thought, isn't that interesting? Like, because I didn't remember Nemesis as being all that hot. But Dap and I dove in, and we haven't discussed it in any way, but I'm hoping you found the same. So I will say two things. One, I did go and reread the original 4-issue Nemesis before I read Nemesis. Yeah, cool. Because I wanted to remember what it was I didn't like about it, and then I also wanted to make sure, because I assumed that Nemesis Reloaded was a sequel, that I wasn't completely lost. Now, to Miller's infinite credit, Nemesis Reloaded is in a way a follow-up, but it's not a sequel. It is a reimagining in the way that almost like a nostalgic, like, hey, let's do a soft remake of something because for a new generation. And he even says in his commentary about the book that he viewed Nemesis Reloaded as a chance to right a previous wrong. That if he had a chance, that he realized that since he owns Miller World and he's got the ability to recreate, like he said, what if I could go back and redo that story in the way I would now? And so rather than saying what if, he did it. He went back and basically reimagined the whole idea of the book that he wrote back in 2000 and when he first typed it in 2009. And I think that's great. We went from go ahead.
It's Evil Dead 2. It's basically Evil Dead 2. Where it's in the spirit of the one that came before. Almost the same story, but fleshed out in different ways.
Sure, okay, that makes sense.
Similar, but different. Yeah.
Sure. The original Nemesis was written by Miller, but drawn by Steve McNiven, who was one of the hot artists of the moment for sure at that time, and they had worked together previously at Marvel. And the premise was, what if Batman was the Joker? Like, that was Miller's premise, and that's kind of what you got, right? You are introduced to a villain who is clad in an all-white costume with a cape and a mask. He looks kind of like the suit almost looks like Alpha Flight Vindicator or Guardian without the maple leaf. But it's all white, and he is an absolute badass, almost to the point of absurdity. He's like Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty and Bruce Wayne all rolled into one with a sadomasochistic bent. And he rips through the life of a DC police chief who we're led to believe he has deep embedded issues with from his childhood, and he does everything from like destroying the government and taking the president hostage to killing thousands of people, all in the name of getting revenge against this particular gentleman. And I rereading that Dap. I don't know if it was a reread for you or a first time, but I remember rereading and thinking, oh yeah, this is when Miller gets the most criticism. This was a version of that where it's like just over the top violence and like the C word and the F, and fuck and like just but almost like to the point of just because he can do it. And it's like, all right, but like, where's the hook, right? And so it is really fascinating to me to then read Nemesis Reloaded, because I know that many years ago when I would mention Miller, I'd get groans, including from the King over here. And then at some point, Depp came around to Miller, and I think part of it is that Miller's storytelling, I'm not gonna say improved, it's just changed. Maybe it's, again, I don't want to say maturing. I mean, he's a grown ass man, but just it. I guess he found a better balance of being ridiculous and telling stories that had a structure and left you thinking, all right, cool. And I thought Reloaded was like very much it's almost like someone writing their first essay as a freshman in high school and then getting a chance to recraft it into their master's thesis when they're in grad school. Like, I really did think that you could it was really fascinating to juxtapose the original to the new one back to back. And I thought the new one was great. It was absolutely right up there with the other Miller stuff that's been coming out of late that we've talked about that I've enjoyed. And part of that is your boo, your boo Druid, your boo, your main. Well, I think I think anyone that's ever met him would have a man crush on him.
That's true. You're right.
He is an incredibly handsome and fit gentleman, and that is Jorge Jimenez, who probably best known to most, I guess, is for his run on Spider-Man. I mean, not Spider-Man, for instance, of Superman, right? Like, that's probably where people know.
Yeah,
long time DC, at this point, long time DC penciler and totally an absolute, but a gorgeous man nonetheless. Yeah, man, I thought it was really good, and I have to say, like, I thought it was well paced. I thought the payoff was fun. And Jimenez's art is just such a treat, and no shade on McNiven. I mean, dude's done a lot of comics that I've enjoyed, but like, just the life and the cartooniness and the expressions on the people's faces and just the little touches, and even with the violence, the nuances to the violence, and I mean nuances like not like it's subtle. I mean nuances like just the way he decides to render it on the page or the visual tricks he uses. It's so accomplished, and it just was like, I don't know, just brought it to life in a way that the original I don't think had to me. And I thought it was a blast, man. Miller's on a streak. He's on a heater, and I hope it doesn't end anytime soon. What did you think?
Well, I hope it doesn't end before the big game anyway.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
No, I enjoyed Reloaded a lot. I did reread Nemesis, and yeah, like you said, it felt like it was rereading it reminded me of things like Wanted and Kick-Ass, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to be as obscene and outrageous as I can be because I can, and that's cool. But it also comes across sometimes it's like, a teenager finding out about the internet for the first time, and there were some things where I was just and everything was, of course, a dig at Marvel movies. It's like, oh, this isn't a Marvel movie where the big guy. It's like, all right, we get it. We get it that's the way the world is thinking right now, and you got to be the contrarian, and that's cool. But this, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have Jorge draw it. I'm definitely taking notice. I definitely gave Miller the benefit of the doubt here after reading the recent things when he came to Image and he gave us things like Huck and Starlight, and there were some, and of course King of Spies. You had little things like that. So I had a feeling that I was going to get that Miller and not the old Icon / Max Mark Miller. And I think the 5 issues it hit just right, and there was a lot in the 4 issues in the original miniseries, but gave himself a little bit more room to breathe. We got a little bit more of kind of the ambiguous, the clandestine organization where we get Nemesis's origin. The original was kind of just, especially the way that ended, where it's just like, okay, because in the original, Nemesis does not, basically he is bested, and then there's somebody who's behind Nemesis pulling the strings. It's like, oh, well, you're free and clear from here on out, and we'll have somebody else now will be targeting. So the concept or the idea of it was tweaked, and I definitely think for the better. And Nemesis is not somebody you're really supposed to be cheering, but because he is as brash and as violent, it's easy to kind of root for. And then as we get near the end, we find out the mayor, the Costello who he's targeting. There's a very valid reason why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, a ton of collateral damage and I mean massive city blocks are just destroyed just to do this, but you definitely get his motivation. And if he has the means, if he has all these weapons, if he has all these resources, then sure, go ahead and employ them. And because it is Miller and we're getting that big kind of popcorn action movie feel to it, it works. I mean, after reading, like I said, King of Spies and things like that, there's nothing subtle about Miller's stories. They're going to be exaggerated, and you're going to be entertained more often than not. But no, I had a blast with this. This was fun. It looks great. I can't get over how amazing.
Yeah, it is
art.
amazing.
I mean, every issue is just a fucking banger. But no, I had no problem with this, and I'm looking forward to where everything kind of leads into with the big event he's got coming out next month. But it's this was really good. I would
see a lot
recommend it.
You see Poppy Capullo in his art. I saw some in this one in particular, maybe because of the subject matter, but definitely.
Yeah, a little bit here, especially the mayor. The mayor.
Yeah, the mayor. Yeah, exactly.
Of a Capullo character. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and by the way, how about the mayor knowing his exact penis size in every dimension?
Yes, right. That's
I was like, man, I'd be dead. I can't. I don't know. Vince, he's on a lie detector, and of course, if he lies, he's done for. And he asked the mayor's penis size, and the mayor's like, I'm trying to think, and he says 8 inches erect, 5 inches flaccid, 5.4 inches girth, and I'm like, my dude is a 0.4. Like what? Like how many times has he measured his own dick? Like that's crazy. I was like, holy shit. And he was right. He would tell the truth.
He was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right. So. I mean, the little things like with the whole Jake and Margot and what how integral they were. It's just, for sure. I mean, nothing was kind of just thrown away. Everything in Nemesis Reloaded pretty much served a purpose. And I
exactly. You know what the big juxtaposition was? Is the original Nemesis is a bunch of. It's like Usual Suspects if it doesn't get tied up at the end, and it's almost like a big MacGuffin, right? Like the premise is that this master criminal is going around destroying these different policemen's lives all across the world. Now he's coming after this one, and supposedly this one was the grand one because there was this backstory that ties back to his childhood. But then at the end, and I guess this is spoilers for almost 20-year-old comic book, but it's all bullshit. Like he's just a homicidal super criminal, and he just makes up the backstory to even more complicate and frustrate his victims. And it's like, okay, well, all right, I guess, like, cool. Like, so it's almost like how he gets his kinks. Which, again, it's a choice, but it did leave it a little hollow because it just makes it realize that, like, all the things that you think are trying to connect don't connect. They don't really have to connect. Whereas this is just the opposite. Like this dude is masterful, and just like Bruce Wayne, much more like Batman. Like, it is all driven from something that happens in his childhood and is literally, like, all connects at the end. And you're like, oh. And it even connects to that point. We'll leave that. But, there's a fun epilogue-y type last few pages that even takes some of the characters you meet and gives them a fitting ending that ties all into it. And it's like, oh, it's each thing, like the dominoes fall here and they fall to a point where it makes a beautiful visual picture from 10 feet up. You're like, oh, that's cool. Like that's what you were doing with all those dominoes. And the other thing that was neat about this one is that it goes superhero mystical. This book was largely terrestrial in that the guy was he doesn't have any superpowers. He's just a super criminal with tons of money and means and weapons. But he goes up against this woman, this Miss Lotus woman, and she's an absolute. I mean, she's supernatural or superpowered in some way. I mean, she's like Mirror Master. She can travel in between mirrors and she uses magic. So like it's kind of neat that he reminds us that this is a world with lots of broader, crazier things going on. So yeah, it's so terrific, man. And like you said, Jimenez, there's a panel where in the last issue where he's grilling the mayor, and Jimenez uses negative space when Nemesis is right up against the mayor's face, like talking to him. and half of about a quarter of the page is just black space where with the mayor's mustache and nose and brow. And I just thought that was such a smart choice. Like, sure, you'd be like, oh, that means you didn't have to draw, but like, no, it was such a smart choice. Like, because it's 100% black space. Like, he's just not drawing in it, and it's like, I'm like, man, like, I don't see that very often. Like, it's a really smart idea, and it could be used lots of times in comics, but you just don't see it that often. And I just thought, man, like, Jimenez was on fleek with this book.
It's not a cop out, because I mean the rest of that panel with Nemesis' face is
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then the rest of the page with all the characters in it.
No,
yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. I think it's Reloaded is obviously the work of a more experienced writer.
Right.
I don't think it's better than the original. It's different, right? But I have a theory. I think back when Miller did Nemesis and the Unfunnies and that Teenage Jesus or whatever the hell the name of it was, he was very much enamored with the work of Warren Ellis. I think he wanted to be Warren Ellis.
Sure.
And so, but I mean, Ellis can be offensive, but Ellis was also at that time a much more experienced and much smarter writer, where Miller was just like, fuck it, I'll make all these cartoon characters the most offensive cartoon characters ever depicted, right? Yeah. And I think he was young, and he was just like, his goal was to offend, and he did. It worked. But I think Reloaded, what is it? You said 20 years later?
Not quite. Nemesis, the original, came out in 2010, so it was 13 years.
Yeah. Okay, 13 years, but he's much more experienced as a writer. Yeah. And it's just a tighter, it's a more polished production. He knows what to leave out now and what to put in. But that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't mean it's any better than the original. I think the original's good because it's just offensive on every level, and it's like, fuck you, I'm just going to do this. This despicable character is just going to run roughshod over this city. That's kind of fun. That's cool.
It is, but like, I guess to me,
did he also do that in Wanted? I mean, there were
like I said,
across like more of the same,
right? But he didn't have a whole lot of notches on his bedpost back then.
I was thinking, like, I compare what he did in the original Nemesis with, say, the President, and then I juxtapose that with what he did a decade later in King of Spies that he did in Ohio, where also in that book he happens to kill the President. But like, that was a super fun, really like, oh shit moment, because in that, the anti-hero of the book was dying, and he would go around basically wiping out all the most shitty people on the planet that he could get to before he died. And like, it just makes sense that he would find his way onto Air Force One and kill the president, right? Like that, when it was like, oh, that's clever, right? It's like, I compare, like, it's the exact same thing, but one was just like, oh, watch me torture the president, and the other is like,
right,
watch the anti-hero put a bullet in the president because he's scum of the earth. And it's like, oh, okay, like it's nuanced. It just feels a little more nuanced now to me.
Right.
That's all.
Experience.
I mean, you're right. It doesn't necessarily make it worse. Being more nuanced doesn't necessarily make it better, in my personal opinion. And again, no disrespect to your view on it. Like, I think it's a more accomplished thing. And I think what's interesting is that how often do you see a creator say, I wanted a do-over, so I redid it.
Oh, like, yeah, no, respect, yeah. And I, it is more accomplished, but I don't think, in my mind, accomplished makes it better.
Sure.
Right, visually, it's much better. Not to slight, McNiven, but yeah, it's just...
But while we're on Miller, maybe we talk about this. Like, is there a more successful... We did talk about it, right? Like, is there a more successful... Yeah, it's crazy. Like... Just talking purely financial now, people. And, it's nuts.
Like DAP, I have never been a super Miller mark. I enjoyed this stuff here and there, but I'm buying into we've read The Ambassadors, right? I'm buying into this new crossover thing he's got going on, the big story or whatever it's called. Like, how does that happen? How do you get me to start buying your books? Well, you put Matteo Scalera and Travis Charest on a book, and I was like, okay, now I need to check it out. And then you find out along the way that, wow, this is pretty fun. It's well written. So I'll jump with you onto the next series. So yeah.
because even like, and I know we talked about his own Miller World movies, but he also was the guy who wrote the stuff that largely went into making Logan and Captain America: Civil War as well. I mean, which is
Yeah.
So like it's just impressive, man. I mean, good for him.
Good.
And he seems like a mensch. He seems like a great dude. He's another guy. Like you never hear anyone say anything bad about him. Anyone that's ever met him or worked with him loves him. Which is cool.
Well, didn't he float people a bunch of checks?
I think Dap said the last time we talked about it, he gave everybody $1 million, right, when he got his Netflix deal. That he
Good for him. Good on you. Good on you.
Which makes you wonder how much Netflix gave him.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure my dude didn't keep $1 million for himself and then give out $20 million. sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this was one for you, one for me. One for you, 2 for me. 1 for you, 3 for me.
The fact that he gave it away in the first place is very endearing. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it's like that George Clooney story. You guys know that Clooney story? After George Clooney made it, he had a dinner party where he invited a dozen friends of different parts of his life. And as they're having dinner, he said, I have a present for each of you under your chairs. And there was a suitcase full of $1 million for each of them. They were just people that meant a lot to him in his life that weren't like famous or rich, and he wanted to say thank you. He gave each $1 million.
Wow.
Awesome.
Pretty freaking awesome.
I know when he was younger, and I mean he had a health scare, and it was.
Oh, did he? I forgot.
Yeah. Oh, years ago. Yeah, it was touch and go.
It was like life or death.
Yes.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I'll look at it. It's
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily a disease, but it was scary, and it's things like that. I'm sure would also change your outlook and how to approach things. But he seems to just be having so much fun now writing. I mean, the Magic Order's going on forever. You've got, I mean, the Kingsman. The movies, as entertaining as the movies are, that first miniseries was a lot of fun. The Ambassadors has been crazy. I mean, I don't know if we all finally finished the 6th issue, but and again, I mean, not everything was a home run. Like Reborn was kind of as great as Capullo's art was. That was probably one of the weaker minis that he's been putting out from Image.
Listen, he's so prolific. They're not all.
It doesn't matter, right? Exactly.
But yeah, for sure.
But I mean, for every Reborn, you still get, you get
like Chrononauts was okay,
right? Yeah, or Sharpie with
MPH was okay. I mean, they're not all bangers, but collectively though, it's been a fun run.
The ones that do hit hard. Like this, like Ambassadors. So yeah.
So I did not know this until because you had me. I'm looking up his health issues. Apparently he has Crohn's disease, and he had a really bad reaction to the medication for it and almost died. That's why he was in the hospital for a while. But he's fine, fortunately. But I didn't know this until just now. Maybe you guys did. He does not use profanity in real life. That is stunning to me.
That is stunning.
It's like
wow.
me.
Yeah. He is a practicing Catholic and does not use profanity in his personal life by choice.
Good for him.
That is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wish I had that restraint.
No, that's goodwill.
Seriously.
Nice. Respect, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, put some respect on the man's name.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Oh, wait, what? Dude.
What?
You run out the door?
What are you talking about?
This is the last time you and I are going to speak for nearly a month, so let's embrace it.
All right, what are we talking about?
Because next week, just for the listeners, Vince is he's leaving us high and dry again.
Yep.
As he's wont to do. We'll soldier on though. Dap and I got something special cooked up for y'all.
Yes.
Something special.
Nice.
And then the subsequent weeks, I'll be in Italy. So yeah. So what are we going to do with the book of the month?
Wait a minute. I said subsequent, and you made fun of me. How do you?
That's why I did it.
Oh.
That's why I did it.
Okay.
Well, are we? What are we doing about the book of the month? What's the plan?
I have no idea. I don't know what to. I don't know what to do.
We'll figure that out. But
yeah, we will.
Yeah,
we'll discuss.
It does. But anyway, but yes, we have a little something special for you next week, and then I'm sure that we'll do special things. But But I mean, we got to finish. I mean, Kokju finished. Vince, we got. I mean, got to wrap it up. Both read it.
You talking about Giant Kokju?
Yeah, the Kokju. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Let me bring my notes here. I want to tell everybody exactly who's responsible for this freaking mess. It's written by Jerry Duggan, illustrated by Scott Koblish, with color art by Hi-Fi. Yeah, it's issues 2 and 3 were pretty much more of the same. Yeah. But I think if
this was not a deep book, not by design. This was not a deep book.
No, but there is some social commentary within it.
Yes.
Basically, each issue, Duggan pretty much reinforces the notion that mankind is a stupid organism. Basically. We're dumb. We're human and we're dumb. We make a lot of mistakes. We're arrogant. We're self-centered, and we deserve everything we get. And I kind of agree with the guy. But so in issues 2 and 3, the kaiju is rampaging over the landscape and having intimate relations with buildings and buses and other things. And so Frank has to swallow his pride and flee to the headquarters, and it's a goofy acronym. There's there's a period between each letter and the headquarters, and each letter stands for something. But it turns out that back in the day, Frank was involved in a mech program, and he was the only one that logged any kind of real flight time in the mech. So he runs back to this penis-shaped building and jumps into a mech called the Vindicator 5 and starts throwing down with the Kokju. But unfortunately, the beast gets the jump on him and ends up penetrating the mech in various ways. And it all ends in the mech digitally stimulating Kokju, and there's a release, and Kokju goes. It's just so silly.
It's silly.
It is very silly.
It's silly.
I liked it a lot. I thought,
me too.
It was one of those roll the windows down. We're going on a little ride, and again, it didn't take itself anywhere near as seriously as a lot of things we read. The mech design was awesome. They didn't really explain why the giant Kokju had bits bitten out of it, but that's okay. I don't really need to know. And then there's room at the tail end for future storylines. I don't think we'll ever see them, but it's nice to know that the kaiju penis is very diverse. It comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes.
Lord.
Yeah. It's silly. It's just plain silly. Well, it was, and I think they were really smart in not making it 4 issues. They didn't overstay their welcome. It's like, all right, 3 issues is about as much as we're going to be able to get away with. So let's just hit them and run, which was very smart, I think. Should they reprint this in an oversized format, I think Scott Koblish's work would benefit from the size increase, because there's a lot of detail going on here. Some spreads have way too many panels, and the opportunity to see it like real big would be great, because it's a big story. You got a giant mech, a giant kaiju ripping apart the city with its penis. it's yeah. I'd like to see this in a Treasury format. Chances are very, very slim that that's going to happen, but it would be neat if we could. No, I thought it was fun. There's no big shakes.
Samesies.
Yeah, no big shakes, right?
Yeah, just a nice little amuse-bouche, little palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Of silliness.
But the fact that Duggan's like, we're just a planet of idiots. That's what endeared it to him to me with this book, because it's true. It's dumb. It's like, that like even characters that you would think would have like maybe a thread of good nature between them. Like everybody hates each other. There's a Japanese man named Shigeru that worked at the headquarters with Frank, and there's bad blood between them. And it's just like people not getting along throughout the whole book. And then the wouldn't you know it, the Kokju emits pheromones, so everybody's fucking and dying and getting flung out of windows. Oh, that poor woman. And then the witnesses start fucking. It's just like, okay, yeah, there you go. I enjoyed it, but you know what I mean. It's not. I don't. If it appeared, this is not nice to say. Maybe it doesn't encapsulate my true feelings on it. But if I ever saw this on a best of list, I'd have to give the person that wrote the list a side eye. It's not. It's not something. I mean, it's going to be memorable because kaiju penis, right? But as far as but I don't think that's a benchmark. It's a fun story with great art and a little bit of social commentary in there to should you need it. It's not going to change the world though. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And remember, this was a webcomic that these guys did to entertain themselves during COVID.
You could tell.
They wanted to laugh.
Yes, you could tell that's it's pretty prevalent that they
just wanted to be silly and laugh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now we have an Image-O-Rama as well as
yes, there we go.
Yep. Nice.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to see, looking at your list here, see what else you got on there. Boy, you read a lot of Miller.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get fully caught up before the event.
Oh, okay.
Because all these characters are in the event.
Magic Order's in the event?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I haven't read any Magic Order.
Well, that's the one you read because there's 4 volumes of it. Because meaning that there's a deeper history. But I don't know how involved they are versus others. But yes, they are certainly in it.
Cool. Okay. There you go.
And that's probably I don't have a list handy of all this Miller stuff, but it's probably my favorite of the bunch.
Oh, nice. I'll have to read those.
Or at least up there.
Maybe on vacation.
Maybe.
Oh, look at you.
I was going to take the Jason Aaron Doctor Strange on vacation with me because it's only 20 issues and an annual.
Right.
And I never finished. But I read the first volume and then just kind of petered out. But I have all 4 of them. And I should read it, but maybe I'll take the Magic Order. There's 4 of them, you say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 4 volumes.
Now, both Dap and I finished the Ambassadors. Have you finished it yet, Vince?
No, didn't read 6.
Okay. Okay.
I get it.
Hey.
Well, it's a double-sized issue, so yeah.
Oh yeah. Huh?
Okay, there's that.
You be busy.
I'm very busy.
Jesus.
All right. So what do we do?
Got to go down the YouTube UFO rabbit hole for a few hours.
Oh, it's freaking busting. Yeah, people are going.
I know.
People are losing their goddamn minds. They are.
You're fired up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for being here with us one more time around. Remember, if you buy graphic novels, omnibuses, and manga, and you want to save money, where do you go? cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's right in the name. Remember, they're having a massive Conan sale, 55% off until June 23rd. Place an order, respond to the order confirmation email, and say that we sent you, and you will be given free shipping on your second order. It's crazy. cheapgraphicnovels.com. In your travels, I read what is going to be a contender for best anthology of the year. Yep. And oddly enough, it's from Oni.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's called
I just
Xino.
started it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's called Xino with an X, but the sound is what you want to focus on. This thing is written. There's a whole bunch of people on this. Written by Melissa Flores, Jordan Thomas, Phil Hester, Christopher Condon, Daniel Izari is an illustrator. There's Shaky Kane on here, Eric Gapster, and Nick Cagnetti. Without saying too much, it's an anthology. I think there's 4 stories in the first issue, all of them coming at you from different angles, but that's a very good thing. The covers by Matt Lisnowski are groundbreaking. They're amazing. But is that, a surprise when we're talking Matt Lisnowski? I don't think so. I think the first cover is one of the better covers I've seen, and it's so different. It's so strange. And issue 2 is even, it's in the same ballpark. But when I look at this Lisnowski work on the covers here, it takes me back to the Bronze Age. These look really bronze to me. And like Kenneth Smith. It's crazy. There's a story about a guy that gets, a blind man that gets eye implants. Very expensive eye implants. And he starts to see things that no one else can see. There is a Shaky Kane illustrated story about McCarthy era fear, xenophobia, hence the title of the anthology. The commies are going to infiltrate. It is then the Phil Hester story is I won't say it because Dap hasn't read it, but the best of all of them is a story called The Chip that appears at the end, where a man is a gamer is implanted with a revolutionary artificial intelligence chip, and it's pretty cool what happens. It's very neat. So if you want to get in on the ground floor of this anthology, I believe it's only 4 issues.
I think you're right.
Yeah. This is oversized too. Head on over to your favorite place to get these things and buy Xino from Oni. It's great. Covers alone should knock you on your ass.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Well, I guess I'll save Griffin for when you come back, Vince.
Yay.
And I won't talk about that because Arc hasn't finished, but I will say I was a little bummed. I should have expected it, though. Adventures of Superman John Kent number 4 continues the story of John in the Injustice universe, checking out things that are happening over here. Really neat seeing him here because he is surrounded by people who seem familiar to him, but are obviously not the same. He does come face to face with Damian, but Damian in this universe appears to be on the side of the Superman of the Injustice universe, whereas Batman and Catwoman and Harley Quinn, they're more or less on the side of the angels here. And John also goes and looks for this world's version of Jay, his boyfriend, back on his world. But what bummed me out a little bit, I mean, I'm always happy to see my man's work, but I'm a bit bummed that after 3 issues with great art by Clayton Henry, Derek Robertson is here for the 4th issue. And their styles aren't exactly all that similar. Again, great to see Derek. Just a little bummed that we couldn't seem to get more than 3 consecutive issues, especially for a miniseries. Those are little things that kind of just sting a little bit. But as far as continuing this story, John is of course going to have to try to figure out a way to get home because his tethers to his universe were destroyed, and eliminated earlier in the story, but seeing him kind of with this slightly new power set where we get Electric Blue John Kent trying to make some quick work of the people, the characters, the heroes he comes across. But yeah, it's Damien's gonna Damien, of course, and looks like for the penultimate issue we might get a little bit of a showdown between the sons of Batman and Superman. But we'll see where the rest of this miniseries continues. We only have 2 more issues left, so I am still along for the ride. Curious to see where Taylor takes this and wraps things up before bringing John back to his planet or his universe and continuing whatever else is going on in the Cornered Superman universe. But in your travels, Adventures of Superman, John Kent, number 4, still solid with the story. Great art by Derek. But if you were hoping that Clayton Henry was going to continue, you'll be not disappointed. You'll just be, it is what it is. So yeah, that's my In Your Travels for this week.
Yes, in your travels, read some manga, people. Open up your eyes. Like there's comics that are made outside of the United States. You know what I'm saying, Vince? Maybe you should try something like a little manga every now and then,
Oh my God, just step on my head. Just hold me down, step on my head.
I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding about reading the manga, but I'm obviously teasing you. Yes, read Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Wow.
I mentioned that I've been watching. Now I'm watching it in serialized like a TV form, but it's, as I've come to learn, it wasn't all. Anyway, I'm watching the anime with my youngest son at his request. He watched it already, and he said we were looking for something to watch together, and he said, "Dad, let's watch Demon Slayer. I think you'll like it." So, and he was right. It's terrific. The anime is terrific. We're most of the way through what is presented on Funimation is the second season, but as I've come to learn, the first half of this second season was actually released as a film in Japan and then cut up into episodic versions for consumption after. And as I've come to find out, that particular it's called the Mugen Train. It's the highest grossing Japanese film of all time. Which that's interesting. But anyway, I was so taken by the anime that, one of the issues we've often talked about with manga is how many of them are just so long running. It feels daunting sometimes to jump in. And this is this manga has come and gone. It came out from 2016 to 2020. It's 23 volumes. So I found a box set of all 23 volumes via the interwebs for relatively inexpensive. So I picked it up and I'm through 3 of the volumes, and it's awesome. I mean, listen, the anime is very faithful to the manga. So I mean, I'm not getting surprised as I'm reading it, right? Like, because I just watched the anime, but I will say that it's still great to see it in this form because like many of our listeners here, I mean, comics are my favorite medium of things, so it's always fun to see it. I didn't mention it's the creator of Demon Slayer is Koyuharu Kotuge, and it's a blast. For those that don't know anything about this, I mean, it's very popular among you manga folk, but it is a world where there are lots of demons. They're only viable at night, kind of like vampires. And Japan is full of demon slayers. And we follow the journey of a particular young man named Tanjiro Komodo, whose family's killed, and he is then begins training to be a demon slayer, and quickly moves up the ranks, and eventually gets brought into a big fight with Muzan Kibutsuji, which is the head demon, kind of like Dracula. He's the boss and the most powerful, and they move up the ranks. He's got and what I love about this is like it's almost like a great kung fu movie or something from the old days where you move up the ladder. Like there's there are lots of lesser demons, and then there's a group of 12 main like lieutenant demons that are there's a bottom 6 and a top 6, and then Tanjiro and his crew have to get through them, and then ultimately leading to, again, a battle with Kibutsuji. So fun stuff, man, and just incredible action. And look at me, I'm loving a manga. So you can teach old dogs new tricks. You really can.
All grown up.
And now, why don't you do you not like this manga? That's interesting to me because it's like one of the most popular, and I find it interesting that you don't. You've never talked about it.
No, it's very strange. Vin really likes the anime, and anything my son likes, I'm not going to read. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little strange. And he was all up in arms about the movie being the same as the series or whatever it is. He was just like, this is just what I've seen, and it's just different. Like,
he didn't know, and then he watched the movie, not realizing he had already seen the episodes.
Yeah, and
right,
whatever.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think it's fucked up. I mean, if my son likes it, now that you say it's okay, great. But like the fact that he enjoyed it would not get me to read it, and vice versa. I could tell him to read something, he wouldn't read it just because I'm reading it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's nice that you're being a parent reading it with your son.
Well, he's not yet. We're watching it. He's not reading the manga, but yeah.
I tried to get him to read Doro Hedoro, a bunch of different. He doesn't want to read it, and so yeah, maybe we're the same in that respect. Stubborn. I don't know.
It's just so crazy to me how much we does like sales wise versus the American comics. Like, it's so crazy between the cartoons and licensing and everything. Demon Slayer makes $8.7 billion per year in revenue. Billion, like with a B. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's Marvel. That's the MCU. Like, that's the MCU. That's more than that. It's more than the MCU. Like, that's crazy.
But there was never a stigma attached to comics in Japan. Unlike
right, but how cool is that? Because it's not like Demon Slayer is the biggest ever, right? Like, it's
no,
not like,
no.
I mean, that's One Piece. I mean, so it's like this is, I believe, the ninth largest Japanese franchise ever, which is massive. But I mean, it's not even that's number 9, and it's doing billions of dollars a year. That's crazy.
Yep. Kudos.
Tanjiro.
All right. There you go. People. Come back next week. Sandwiches, drinks, the whole 9 yards. In the meantime, get yourselves to a comic book shop or an online retailer and buy some comics, people. Read them, love them.
Have fun in Charlotte this week, folks.
Yeah, enjoy yourselves. We love you all.
But we will see you in New York in October.
Yes, we all got our press approvals, so it'll be on like Donkey Kong.
Nice. And say goodnight. I don't have anything queued up. Oh well. It is. I can get something real quick. But now it's anticlimactic now.
It is.
It is, I know. David.
Good night. David.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Goodness. My goodness.
They get E for everyone.
Yes. Is that Donald Duck?
Oh boy.
Yes.
All right.
We will be back next week. We love you so much.
Hopefully our guest doesn't do that.
For real, dude. That's no fucking Jesus Christ.
Bye.
That's it for that one.